Hello, dear friends. Welcome to this new episode of the Pearl Dialogues. My name is Wazee, and together with Elin, I host this podcast, the Pearl Dialogues, where we explore the nature of reality through the lens of the Diamond Approach. And today's episode, we have Naya Kee coming on, which is, in my heart and in my view, such a beautiful soul who shares a lot of deep wisdom. And we explore the topic of competition. We talk about the Enneagram. We talk about the art of evolution, the art of growing, personal growth, the different ways one can come into this teaching, and also the thread of guidance, how one can be guided into this. Such a rich, expansive conversation with a lot of beauty and joy. That's how I experienced it. So I'm looking forward to share this with you. For those of you who are new to this teaching, I have created a intro page to the Diamond Approach, which you can find on yodacommunity.org. The link will be in the show notes. Also, as always, if we talk about words you don't understand, terminology, Diamond Approach terminology, we actually have a glossary where you can find any word that we talk about that is Diamond Approach lingo, and you can find a whole library of descriptions and definitions of these concepts. That will also be in the show notes. As always, I invite you to sense your arms and legs while listening. This is something we actually talk about in this particular conversation to give you an in-depth view into that particular practice, both from a personal point of view and also the practice itself as it is taught in the Diamond Approach. So yeah, I wish you a wonderful ride with this, and yeah, enjoy. So I feel moved to ask you about your initial journey into the Diamond Approach.
Yeah. I feel, what do I want to say? It's like the Diamond Approach has been calling me for a long time, in the sense that from a really early age, there was a way that I knew that I came from like a real glory. And I was looking for that again. And I went through a number of different quite committed, serious paths. And they kind of ran out of road for me, in a sense. I mean, I benefited greatly, hugely. But around about 50 years old, I was looking for something really, would really hold me, would really, wouldn't just sort of give me a few things and then say, run along, that was really going to be the kind of full commitment that the Diamond Approach asks for and provides. It's a co-commitment, like the school and the teachers just keep on giving, right? So there it was. And I happened upon it through a therapist who was doing things with me that it was like, whoa, what's she got? Where's she been? And it turned out she was actually in the teacher training for the Diamond Approach. And then I just went, okay, let's find my way. And there was an open group in Seattle, and I was accepted into the group, and that was the year 2000. So never really looked back after my first retreat. It was, I don't think I even asked myself, is this for me? It was just like, we're off.
Wonderful. I like that. I like that a lot. We're off.
I know. Yeah. Well, when this path is for you, I mean, you kind of, I think some of us really know it right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the mirroring you speak about in terms of the commitment is also a very interesting inquiry, because the level of commitment in every student can vary from person
Yeah.
to person as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. But if you really step into the full flow of the teaching, you realize that it's a powerhouse, and you can just it'll can take you right there.
I think, I mean, over in my case, it is over the last, I would say, 2, 3 years where I've
Mhm.
really come to understand what you just said there, how the teaching is a
Mhm.
powerhouse.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. I really feel that about you. Doing this project. I
yeah.
mean, you could do it if you weren't in a love affair.
Mm.
You this is yours to do and to demonstrate and to give, and yeah, it's lovely.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel
Hmm.
very touched by that mirroring. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really, yeah, my heart really activates when you speak, when you say that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
comes live vibrantly.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Yeah.
That's as it should be. In a sense, yeah. We don't like to use that word should in the diamond approach, but when it's aligning, right? When it's really aligning with the truth, with what's real, then
Mm.
yeah, it's as it should be. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. And from what I hear, you say that you have a remembrance, or at an early age, you had a remembrance of something deeper, something more profound than the ordinary world, you could say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, how would you, does that have a context other than that is, or in addition to this teaching? Is there any other avenues on any parallel dimensions or views?
Yeah, what an interesting question. I think it's the common thread. I mean, I'm not really talking, people refer to that thing called the perennial philosophy, and a lot of people think, oh, all the paths are the same, and, they're really all just all one. And that's not exactly what I'm saying. But at a really fundamental level, the depth of reality doesn't differ from path to path. Right? So, the fingers are all pointing maybe to slightly different phases of the moon, in a sense, if you know that metaphor.
Mm.
But the current underneath that carries us all is the same current. So that's what comes up for me when you ask, is there another dimension? I mean, I feel like I just simply was fortunate to um, have the kind of environment that I was born into that was sufficiently open that I could linger in that current for a little while, as a very, very, very young being. Like I'm talking, infancy, 2 years old, that kind of thing. I was allowed to be in a kind of reverie, in a kind of absorption from time to time. That was that, in a sense, memory recognition of the origin. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes, so beautiful. One thing that's resonating me, which is I'm really in touch with you in terms of what you're sharing about the depth and
Mhm.
the depth we all share, and all spiritual traditions, in a sense, share the same depth,
Mhm.
or the one depth. Um, at the same time, when I feel your presence in a personal way,
Mm.
I get this angelic sense. I get this galactic, some higher order kind of energy coming through. I don't know. I don't know how those words compute in your location. However,
Uh-huh.
there is a particular quality to your expression which I very much appreciate. There is a kind of elegance and a kind of I mean, I've met with many teachers now over the course, and everyone has a different blueprint. Yet at the same time, I also find that certain blueprints share a similar category of incarnations, you could say. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if that makes sense to you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Families, in a sense, right?
Yeah,
Family
different
resemblance.
and different constellations, you could say, of human beings who have similar characteristics or threads of expression and manifestation, as if we also, in addition to being humans, on a human level, I feel the physical expression is that we look different. And some people look alike, and that there is a kind of connectivity looking alike. But I also feel that the soul has a similar signature that
Uh-huh.
can resonate and has a particular expression. That's what's gone for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. And I think, yeah, there's the sort of the family resemblances amongst people.
Yeah.
And they're different. There are different families, there are different tribes, there are different enneatypes, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of different ways to articulate that the this the similarity, the resonance, um the relation, that we have with one another. And we're going to really resonate with one person and maybe not so much with another, or somebody's got a galactic presence and someone else has an earth presence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
This is it. This is it. Yeah, which is very interesting.
It is, isn't it? I mean, it's it, nature, true nature, it's so abundant, so multifarious, right? There's no end. The snowflakes are all different. They're all snowflakes,
Mhm.
but each one,
Yeah.
there's just no end to the originality. Yeah, and the profusion. Mm.
A lot of beautiful words. Multifarious? Did you say that?
Yes, multifarious.
I've
Yes.
never heard that before.
Oh, yeah, but you get the meaning, though, don't you?
I
It's
do get the meaning. It's a
mm-hmm.
beautiful word.
Mm-hmm.
Multifarious. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's yours.
Yeah. And one
Yeah.
thing that struck me and that I found or was highlighted when I read your teacher profile was how you at some point dedicated yourself to sensing constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
constant that dedication commitment to sensing yourself constantly. I would
Yeah.
love to hear more about your journey with that
Mm-hmm.
and where you find yourself to be with that practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right now I'm finding myself to be needing to rededicate myself to the practice. And I remember one of my early teachers said the sensing practice is a beginning practice and it's an advanced practice. So it's a practice that you never leave. It's a practice that never stops giving. It's a practice that never stops bringing you closer and closer and closer to to presence itself. So, um, my belly center was the least developed when I came into the work in the first many, many years of the work. And I realized, I was missing a big part of myself, right? I just, even though I was meditating every day and I was inquiring and I was going all to all the workshops and it was all sparking and a lot of emotionality, a lot of heart work, And, but there was a way that there was more. I just knew there was more, and that the sensing practice was the portal. And I just went after it. I just committed myself, and it opened the way to being affected and imprinted and moved and understood, all that, by the work, by the teaching, to a degree that didn't have anything to do with my ego. Right? A lot of the emotional work is clearing the egoic, knots and wounds and pains. And the sensing work, I'm just thinking of this now. I've never said it or thought it before, but it seems like the sensing work really invites you to bypass your emotional, egoic, and your mind knots into an experience that's completely direct and completely accessible, right? All you have to do is sense yourself. It's not something that, you know how to do instantly. Like most of us are sensing from our head, and we don't know what it's like to be our big toe in a real way. But once I got it, that my flesh could sense my flesh, that I wasn't a head, just a head and a heart, it brought me into the world. We talk about being in the world, right? Not of it, but we're in it. And we're a body in it. We're a whole electromagnetic, physiological miracle in the world. And the more we are cognizant of that, that's a weird word to use because it's a mental word, but the more in contact, the more we inhabit, the more our consciousness saturates that, what we call our physicality, the more real everything becomes. So there's the journey, and I'm renewing it now because somehow I'm feeling an expansion of the potential of that practice. Mm-hmm. You get to a point where you're just doing it, right? It's natural, but then you can start taking it for granted, in a sense. And so right now I'm feeling like, there's more. That looks like it's landing, Wazee.
Very well. That's such a beautiful transmission. And I mean, some people listening to this, every episode, or more or less every episode, I invite people to sense themselves while they're listening. One thing is the intellectual benefit of listening to this podcast, but the transmission comes through on a different level simultaneously with the intellectual stimulation. So I find, to speak about this explicitly can be helpful for some of the listeners.
Definitely.
So with that, I felt you gave a very wonderful insight into the practice, the depth of the practice, the potential of the practice. How would you describe the practice itself?
Yeah. So I'm just sensing myself. The expression that comes is, I'll say, I am presencing myself to myself in the moment. And it has I like that expression, electromagnetic, for some reason today. It has a palpability. Like when I practice, there's a palpability. Zarina when she does, Serena, probably. Anyway, she's one of the teachers. When she guides people through the sensing practice, she refers to liquid light, liquid light. And it's a flow of, when you think of consciousness as light, of like an illumination that is also palpable and present and is not separate from who and what we are. Yeah, it's a whole dimension of our being. Not in the classic Diamond Approach word for dimension, but you know what I mean. It's a realm.
Yeah, beautiful. And for context, those listening who are unfamiliar with that practice, this in some sense is the advanced experience of that practice, the liquid light, while initially it begins with simply sensing the sensation of the foot, sensing the foot as the foot. And there is a particular practice that has an ancient history that the school is a part of the school's methodology, where one scans from the right foot upwards to the knee, to the thigh, up the right arm, over to the left arm, down, and then to the down to the left foot. Yeah. And that genuine sincerity in that practice and interest in actually experiencing what is happening and being with the simplicity of the expression that is taking place is a big part of the practice. And also how, at least in the beginning, and maybe for a long time for some people, it differs, that the tendency to be distracted can activate, and I reckon most people also have days where essence is more available and the sensing practice is so effortless, and other times where the mind is more distracted and agitated, which in some sense makes the practice more choppy, if we're going to say it that way.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I can tell that you really, you've practiced the practice. Like, how was it for you? I'm curious at this point in your work. Yeah,
thank you. So initially, before I came to the Diamond Approach, I practiced Vipassana. So the 10-day Vipassana silent retreats, I did that twice in a year. That was my entry to sensing, and it was a wonderful entry. That was a great foundation for my meditation practice. So when the Diamond Approach introduced the sensing, looking, and listening, and the sensing in the arms and legs, I had a platform or a foundational sense of that already, which was very helpful. Now, I feel the availability that you speak about, the liquidity of the sensing, and also the luminosity in the sensing, and also the ability to sense any part of my body or any part of the field. You could say my eyeball, the organs, inside, outside. So how the sensing practice can become very detailed and very refined, you could say. And at the same time, I do feel that there is a background of sensing in my everyday life that is you could say constant. That said, I do also notice that at times, or this in of itself is a massive part of the process of actualization when we speak about bringing our realization into everyday life, yeah, and how the
Yeah.
sensing practice is integral to that process and that movement. And in that arena, I at some days, some phases of my life is more effortless. Other phases of my life is difficult, and uh, there is emotionality. There is so much distraction. My mind can run away with this, that, and the other. I live in the city center as well, so energetically there is very little support for that practice. I would say in Oslo, Norway, Oslo, Norway. Um, Although I have a nice environment in my apartment, I do feel that there is so much activity in the city that can make it more challenging actually to stay rooted in presence and uh, to continuously be in remembrance or awareness of being in that way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally get that. Yeah, I used to live in the city of Vancouver,
Ah.
and a couple of years into the work, so I would be in my early 50s. I really started to feel all the refrigerators in, the 1.5 million refrigerators that were going off all the time,
Let alone Wi-Fi, huh? And cell
Yeah,
phones and all of that.
all of it. Yeah, so I actually moved. I came out to a very small coastal town with a ferry from the city, and yeah, makes a difference.
It makes a difference, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So I definitely feel that how to live without a sensing practice, huh? How to live a full life without a sensing practice. I don't know. I can't compute that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think maybe you can't.
Maybe you
In this,
can't. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I don't say I have the answer, but I just know from in my case, the sensing practice is so important, and it's. I mean, it's so enriching to my consciousness, to my life, and also,
yes,
like you said, it can also bring a sense of neutrality. It can simplify things. It can distribute one's consciousness, one's awareness, so that it's not so condensed into the emotionality, for instance. It can help it be more distributed. So there is a vast, vast, vast potential and of possibilities that comes with it.
yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about it, that it can expand you in a way out into the world. Like we think of it as, okay, it's easy to think of it as, okay, I'm sensing myself,
Yeah.
sensing myself with my boundaries and my skin, and this is it, this is where I am. But paradoxically, it really opens you up
Yeah.
to what we call the external. Yeah, so I love it that you brought that up. Yeah, yeah.
And actually, something comes to mind here because I was bicycling earlier today as a kind of exercise workout, and I decided to in some sense bicycle at maximum, so maximum speed. Huh? It's
Mhm.
very tiring after a while. And then I was because I held you in my consciousness and what you said about the sensing practice, and I really brought that with me while cycling. And when the intensity increased of my experience and also the sensing experience, because I mean you're using your muscles, it's starting to burn, and the breath is really rough somehow because the lungs are getting stimulated in whatever ways. And then what I felt is I was being penetrated through the sensing practice. I was being penetrated by the intensity of that experience. So I was also in that being aware how challenging it is to be sensing oneself in the intensity of experience and sensation. how
Mm-hmm.
that can make someone dim down or numb down or withdraw due to the intensity. So it is genuinely a practice that can expand in capacity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, expand your capacity to be present to everything that's happening, whether it's your lungs feeling like
Yeah.
or yeah, your legs burning, and just allowing all of it, not having to go, okay, I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to get a grip, and I'm going to, all that thing that we do to
Mm.
muscle through stuff. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great example.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's good.
Yeah, yeah. It really reminds me of something. There was a teacher meeting of our regional teachers last night, and we were talking about a particular thing. And one of the teachers said this, which I just loved. I've never heard it before. One of her teachers said it to her. I just wrote it down because I was the note taker. If you want to develop, increase the necessity. You get it. I mean, it's really worth, like challenge yourself, move into something that's, is going to be difficult. And you go,
Mm.
oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. That's
It's a
an
good one.
implicit
Increase
challenge.
yeah. Well, it's like you,
Yeah,
going your maximum. What's going to
yeah,
happen if I do that?
yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how how do you apply that? How did that touch you, and how would you apply it, or how do you want to apply it, perhaps?
Yeah. That's a good question because for me, um, it's a, it's a moving target, right? It's like, how much is too much, how much is not enough in terms of what I take on in the world to do. So, do I take that new student, for example, or do I apply to do some sort of teaching thing? Uh, that kind of thing. Um, I do, I mean, historically, I've taken on challenge after challenge after challenge, like going to the seminary was huge, because it's very demanding, and I had to travel a long way, and it's very demanding, and I'm sort of going into story here, but anyway, maybe I need to. I started. I joined a choir about 4 years ago. Never been in a choir in my whole life, right? And it's a real serious choir with real music and performances and that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
And I also took on I do a lot in a school service called CARE, which you might have heard of. It's called the Communication Assistance Resource for Everyone. It's called CARE. And we have volunteers doing conflict resolution, basically, for school members who are in difficulties together. So I've taken on those challenges, and they felt like, yes, this is for me to do, right? It was really clear. Where I get a little fuzzy, actually, is how much teaching I take on. Like, when am I full up, and when can I take on more? And my superego can get involved there, and my ego ideal, I should, and look at her, she's doing that, but I'm not doing this. And, it gets a little fuzzy with that. But when I'm clear, I'm clear. But I have that space of, yeah, the, how much should I take on as a teacher? What's really good for me? What's really a contribution? Um, what's real and true?
Mm.
What's that balance? Yeah.
I feel when you're speaking now, you're transmitting. This is my experience of how I receive it. You're
Mm-hmm.
transmitting like a um, white golden light that is
Mm.
the I feel that there is such a purity of honesty and directness that you're communicating that I really appreciate. There is just this unfiltered openness that comes true in terms of certain things that you're saying and sharing so openly in this space.
Mm.
And I can feel the transmission of that. And like I said, it has this white light.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, of course, I've listened to quite a few of the dialogues, and you have this capacity to see, to have that subtle seeing, like the white light or the pink or whatever it is that you're articulating. And how is that for you? I'm curious. I don't really have that. Sometimes I have it, but you seem to have very consistently that kind of subtle vision. Mm.
Yeah. Interesting. For a long time, I, in all, straightforwardness, I for a long time I felt I don't have that. I can't
Ah,
see anything. Then suddenly at some point I was thinking, they can see, so why can't I see? So I just started to lean into it. And then
yeah.
initially I felt I don't know if I was certain about what I was seeing, but I was just saying,
Mhm.
okay, I'm seeing red. That's the that's the closest that I get. And then
Yeah,
over
yeah.
time it seems to have become more and more precise, and the seeing has
Mhm.
become more and more developed. So
Oh,
now, when I
good.
when I sit with you, and there is a lot of clarity in terms of the transmission, and it comes true with that shimmer and the clarity of that white light. So it seems to have been a development for sure that I just
Yeah,
leaned into, more a little
exactly.
bit like a fool.
I love it. Well, because you didn't let your doubt clamp down.
Yeah,
Said, okay, yeah, there's a doubt, but I'm going for it. I'm just gonna look around and see what I see and share it and
yeah,
see what happens.
basically like that. It's actually the part of me that is a bit like, um, just go for it. There.
Yeah.
I mean, one sub archetype that I feel is integral to my being and my blueprint is the one that I call the athlete. So there's a
Oh, yeah.
part of me that is extremely athletic and oriented in an athletic way. So I can relate to a lot of athletes in terms of their mindset and how they function and the way they optimize their life and prioritize and so forth. And there is also a go for it attitude, just do it attitude, which also is actually the tagline of Nike or Nike,
Yes, it is. Yeah, the
right?
Nike ski.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And there is a power in that. There is a power in that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. No, it's a propulsion, it's a momentum, and there's so much health in it. Like that's what I
yeah.
feel. Yeah. 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 Positivity, health.
Mm,
Mm,
well said.
yeah. Mhm, mhm. Beautiful. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elite. Are you competitive? Is that part of it? Or,
So I would say my enneatype is enneatype 3
yeah.
originally, huh?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
and growing up I was highly
mhm.
competitive. And then I would
Uh-huh.
say it has evolved, changed, matured. There is still competitiveness, and I can also see in myself, in terms of how I compete with myself, you could say.
Mhm,
I mean, the thought, and it can also be laden with superego at times, but I feel it has an original rootedness in something deeper, which is the optimizing force. But something that can come up for me is there anything more I can do to optimize my existence, in alignment with the universal will, or to actualize my full potential? So I will kind of
mhm.
scan all aspects of my life to see where am I lagging behind? Is there anywhere I can practice more sincerely, or is there any way I can expand and be more focused in whatever way in order to have the best possible environment to develop and mature and evolve and so forth.
That's wonderful. That is alignment with the optimizing force. And also in it, I can feel the enormous power of the survival drive in service of the optimizing force, right? There it is, just sort of supercharged with all of you, right? There's not a piece left sort of lingering, going, well, I don't know whether I really want to, or maybe there is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily listening to that part.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's not the dominant voice. That's for sure.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I could ask you more questions, but maybe that's not necessarily what we're doing.
Exactly. That's, it can flow different ways. But I actually wanted to ask you: is there any archetypes that you feel resonates with you? I mean, there are so many in our life and day, but is there anyone that comes up for you in terms of something that's defined your existence in a personal way?
Well, I hadn't thought of that before, but immediately when you asked the question, and it's a little embarrassing, I don't know, embarrassing, it seems a little grandiose, but it also feels true, that it is the artist. Like that would be an archetype that I would really relate to. And, I'm an enneatype 4, so that would also fit with my fixation. And I think what about it is living on the edge of the, I'm going to go for optimizing force again, like in that sense that there's, if I tune in, there's always an available movement. There's always well, maybe not all, but I guess the proviso is if I tune in, if I'm present to the moment, there's always a poem, there's always a painting, there's always a dance, there's always, an inquiry of some sort that moves, right? So it's kind of like alignment with the logos, the creative dynamism of being. And it's interesting. Well, Hamid says that the logos is really, well, he also says, anyway, he says a lot of different things, but the logos is kind of the primary force in this teaching.
Yeah.
I've certainly heard him say that. And anyway, that's sort of a sidebar because everything reminds me of the teaching at this point. But so the artist, and there's a sensitivity and a kind of transparency, in a sense, a kind of diaphanous way of being that manifests in this location. And I associate that with, in a way, being aligned with the creative force, because you have to be very, very open, very available to have things move through you like that. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Thank you. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way before. Great question.
And in terms of archetypes, my sense with anything that is manifest is that you could say there is a gift to an archetype, but there is also a shadow to the archetype. What would you say is the gift and the shadow to that archetype for you?
Well, I just talked a lot about the gift, I think, which is the vessel for the creativity. And the shadow, of course, is thinking you own it. It's thinking, that's me. I'm so special, right? This is the shadow of the 4. Yeah, I'm so special. And you can get entranced by the glamour of that creative process, right? And appropriate it to your ego. that look at me, I can do this, and aren't I beautiful? And
Yeah.
look at this product, I could just look at my painting all day long, can't you? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real trap, I think. And I've heard him even say that, lots of artists work from their ego. And yeah, who knows? That's how that comes down. But I think it's very seductive to think you're doing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess the same can be said in a maybe a slightly different way for the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How are you seeing
Mm, the appropriation definitely can happen in terms of achievement. If there is achievement, there can be an appropriation of the achievement of I did it, right? Claiming
it?
this was I who did it, and then
Mm-hmm.
appropriating it in that way. Another one, which is something one has to deal with, is the kind of relentlessness and the pressure to perform and the pressure to do well, you could say, and the pressure to be at your best somehow, right? So, and then pushing the edge in that way. So the superego can co-opt that force, obviously, and then one can have ego images, self images of grandiosity that can be identified with. And also when one is feeling down, one can have the intensity of the superego hammering that, because doesn't fit with the ego ideal, right? So it's a whole constellation that one has to deal with, and this is where the practice of disidentification comes in, and also the importance of really working with those structures to metabolize them and all of that. But that's universal for all types, huh?
Yeah. Well put. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole competitive, getting better than,
Yeah.
and having your ego ideal, plus all those other people out there who are also cycling or weightlifting or whatever it is. And
Sure.
getting activated in that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Competitiveness, comparison, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very
Mm-hmm.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Another question that I found that you expressed so beautifully, which I resonate with so deeply, and something I've been asking myself for years since I started this path of inquiry, is what is here?
Ah,
I like that.
it's the best. What is it? What is it?
What is here? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
well,
One
yeah.
question is actually opening that question. Another is, do you feel that you're applying that in a conscious way, or consciously still in your everyday life? Is that something you're asking yourself throughout your day? How do you apply that, and what's actually happening for you in terms of that?
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely apply it every day. And I really related to what you were saying about how, some days are, you're really present and some days you're not. Some hours are really just alive and some are kind of confused and muddy. And so it is that question is it's it's the best possible question to ask. And I ask it a lot. And I ask it when, not always, but the cue for asking the question is when I feel like I'm not here, when I feel like I've been um, kind of immersed or taken away by um, an aversive kind of feeling, right? When I feel uncomfortable, when I feel depressed, when I feel afraid. when I feel rejecting, right? Those are all reminders to say, hello to whatever is here. Because so many of those aversive, to use that kind of Buddhist term, um, I'm not sure what I was going to say, but that they're, I mean, in a way, that's their bright side, right? Because they don't feel good, and they invite us to be awake. And at least at this stage in my practice, that's how it is. And it wasn't always like that. I mean, I was, pretty typical for, wallowing in my, it's also difficult.
I love that. I love the way you express that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. It's just such an
Yeah.
archetypical movement, you know?
Exactly. The damsel in distress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
There's like this really, I mean, beauty to that as well. It's just, I mean,
Yeah. 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 So human.
so human. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So human.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, all those things, you're really just, sounds so simple. You're looking for love.
Yeah.
You're just looking for love. I want somebody to take care of me, you know, just like mommy did or whoever it was.
Yeah.
I want to be held.
Yeah.
It's all hard.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Or I want to be soothed. Yeah. So, and that's kind of where, when we ask, where am I in those difficult places? It seems like usually if we go deep enough, there's that child who needs to be seen, held, loved. Mm.
Mm.
And then the compassion comes, or whatever comes that is the right thing.
How would you describe the process of, one way of looking at it is working with that child, one way is looking is meeting that child, one way is putting it is dealing with that child, so one can talk about it in different ways, like what is your relationship with that process,
Mm,
practice?
yeah, that's a great question. That's one of the key questions, of course, in our work, and particularly if you're, working with somebody, but very much when you're working with yourself. I'll just tell you something I did recently that was so miraculously effective in working with my own inner child. Still got plenty left. Hamid, maybe you don't know, but Hamid gave a 3-day teaching on sleep yoga. And he encouraged people to work with their dreams. And, I've worked with my dreams before, and I'd gotten to a place of, okay, I have dreams like this. But the real common thread of most of my dreams was a kind of agitation to get somewhere else and not able to get somewhere else. So if you're familiar with like the frustrating object relation, right? There's the desired object, there's little you, and you're constantly trying to make it, but you can't quite make it. You're frustrated, right? My dreams were like that. And my thought was, well, once I get more enlightened, my dreams will change. So I don't have to work with my dreams anymore. That's just, it's going to take care of itself, right? Okay, so there's Hamid saying, you should work with your dreams. There's something really key in your psyche that your dreams are, manifesting, are showing you. Okay, so on the advice of one of my beloved inquiry partners, I did a Gestalt practice, like an empty chair practice, if you know what that is. Like I put the dream me, the one who inhabits the dream, the one who's frustrated, I put her in a chair, and I put the me in another chair, like me right now, my physicality. And I talked to the dream child, really. And I was so out of touch with her. Like that was the first thing I said. I'm really out of touch with you. I don't really feel like you're me. I don't really feel like I know anything about you. I don't really understand you. I'm happy. I'm contented. My life is simple. I've got everything I need. I don't, what are you about? I went into the other chair and I started to sob. There she was in all of her pain. And so that all just came through. And then the dialogue was sort of, the one who knows, the me, the teacher, the Diamond Approach teacher, who truly has a lot of wisdom, holding her and hearing her, all her fears, her doubts, her frustrations. And it was really quite amazing because this part, the little frustrated part, could hear it, could hear and be held and feel the wisdom that had over time, accreted or, had appeared here. And Wazee, that was about a month ago, maybe. And my dreams are completely different. Literally. Wow. I haven't had those frustration dreams since. I've had, my dreams are not full of, roses but I know what I want. I'm with other people. I'm determined. I'm whatever, it's like, so there's an example. It's a very dramatic example, but it's really about fully encountering the child with real, direct, open heart, open mind, and a real presence that wants to know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it surprised me.
Ooh, dang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, so my initial response to this was, oh my goodness, there's a whole new universe that's opening up here with that recommendation, because I've been thinking, let me just sleep through, huh? I mean, when it comes to dream, I do so much work in everyday life. You know what I mean? Let's just sleep through the night, huh?
Good.
That's one. And then, because I remember at some point in my life, I started writing down my dreams, and my dreams got more vivid. I had less REM sleep, where I was just gone. And there was more dreaming that took place. And I was thinking, no. I want I want my sleep, huh?
Yeah.
So this is one thing, and recently actually I've been having a fair bit of nightmares, or not nightmares. I think that is a bit of an extreme word, but heavy dreams, huh? Yeah. Terror-based dreams. Let's put it that way, huh? And I do see a correlation between eating meat and having those dreams, I must say. I do think there may be a correlation. Generally, I don't eat much meat, but over the last week, this Easter time, I've been eating way more meat than I usually do. There may be a linkage there, huh? And some people have said that. Now, all that said, I was very touched by her story, and I can relate, because I feel that there is my dream child is also neglected, deeply neglected, right? So your sharing was a transmission and an opening for me of that relationship. I haven't really even considered that really.
No, yeah. I mean, I'd left it behind. I just thought, well, it's going to take care of itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought so. I thought so too, you know. And this activates. Okay. So I really need to reintegrate. I need to integrate that practice. I really need to integrate my dreams now. So this is massive, actually.
Yeah. And it's not like dream analysis,
Mm,
that maybe you know something about where anyway, there's a whole bunch of ways to do dream analysis and understanding. It's literally inhabiting, the Wazee who's in the dream
yeah.
and speaking to him,
Mm,
or mature being.
mm.
Mhm.
And is in the teaching, was it is the because the practice you just shared was from Gestalt, but was it the same practice that Hamid shared about, or is it a different?
Oh, but Hamid didn't share any practice. All Hamid said was, your dreams are worth looking into. They're part of your psyche. You
Okay,
should be with your dreams. Yeah, no practice.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He was more emphasizing the the fact that in our deep sleep, I'm not sure whether it's theta or anyway, the very, very deepest sleep, that's a state of consciousness, and it's actually an absorption into the absolute, like
Yeah.
into source, and that it's deeply refreshing. And that's one reason why we sleep, and
Mm,
that everybody experiences that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's been my sense. So that makes total
Mhm.
sense. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, that whole question of how do we work with our inner child it's a profound question.
Mm,
And of course, virtually every session, that's happening in one way or another. That is, for years, actually,
yeah.
for most people. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Wow. So fascinating.
It is. And that's one of the great virtues of the diamond approach, which is often said, that we use the psychological understanding from the last, 100 so odd years to open up our spiritual life.
Mm,
Yeah.
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 Hmm.
Where are you
Wow.
going?
Huh?
I asked where you were going. You were going into a.
Yeah, so going two places. One was, I mean, I'm bringing into parallel inquiry here this, really, okay, so this dream universe, how to navigate that basically. So that's one parallel thing I'm going to take with me and really allow to simmer and mature over time but there is an openness to it now in a different there is a different type of openness to that notion that dimension that realm after having spoken with you.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'm curious about your name. Is that an Egyptian name, or I looked it up, but I couldn't quite tell. And are you an African in origin, or
Yeah, so I'm half from Senegal
ah?
and half from Norway.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay, that's why you're American.
yeah, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in Norway,
Uh-huh.
but I've been to Senegal many times growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
the name Wazi is actually an Arabic name. Um,
Yeah.
and it stems from, it's actually so my full name, my birth name is Assan
Mm-hmm.
Magnus Wad Olen.
Oh,
And then um, the Wad transformed into Wazi.
oh, okay.
So
Yeah, as a
Wazi,
kind of.
huh?
Kind of a nickname
Yeah,
or?
as a kind of a nickname that came out of
Mm.
Wazee. So
Ah,
originally growing up, I was called Asan. And some
mhm.
people called me Magnus. They're very few. Some of my school teachers, because I grew
Uh-huh.
up in a Norwegian country, and that's the name that. Oh, I know this name. The other ones,
Yeah.
oh, how do I pronounce this? So, and then when I moved abroad, then the Wade became Wazee, and
Mhm.
since then I've been going by Wazee.
It- Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my parents called me Asan.
Yeah, they're very different in feel, aren't they? Those
Very
two
different.
names.
Very.
Yeah. Do you feel that you relate to both of them in some way, that they both represent or resonate with your who you are?
Yeah, I would say so. In terms of the name that I feel expresses who I am most, where I am
Yeah.
today, is Wazee. Asan is, I mean, my full name is dear to my heart. I really love that name.
Yeah.
And it's connected to my ancestry and my origin, you could say. So that is the gravity and the weight that it has for me.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it has a real sobriety to it.
it does.
Mhm.
It
Yeah, it
does. Well
really.
said. Very well said.
Mhm.
Very well
Yeah,
said.
yeah, that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. Fantastic.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
what would you say inspires you in life? Like, when do you get inspired? What do you find inspirational?
Wow. So many things. Um, and I did, it was one of the list of questions that you forward as part of the Pearl dialogue process. So I did think about it a bit. And really the first thing, and I know it sounds so um, I get really inspired by watching teachers work. Not so much the presenting, yes, but when they are interacting with a student, like the Q&C or a small group, and and why I find it very inspiring because um, so often there's like there's the spark there's the spark of transformation and presence and movement, that optimizing force is right there, and it's in the dialogue itself, and the student is open, the teacher is touching just that spot, kind of thing, that is ready to to reveal itself, and then there's another and another, and I just find that absolutely fascinating,
Mm.
and it is inspirational because it says something very, very profound about the nature of I'm going to use that word again, reality, that there is that ever floweringness to it. I mean, yeah, there's a whole lot of stuckness, there's a whole lot of pain and suffering, but this particular method of inquiry really inspires me. I really, I really love it, and I listen to it a lot. Like I get the recordings from probably about 6 different groups. I don't listen to all of the retreats, but I listen to a lot of it, and I really love the Q&C and
Mm.
how that work works. Yeah,
What a gift.
yeah,
Sharing that. I mean, what a gift that you're sharing that,
uh-huh.
and that angle. I think it's a very generous and luminous angle on the Q and C. That's just my sense of it. Huh?
Yeah, really good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I guess right now also I'm inspired by spring. There's something about the new growth, that just that it's where does it come from? I mean, I know there's a whole botanical process that we understand to some degree. But man, what a miracle.
Mm.
Just, whoa, step by step, this burgeoning greenness and blossoms. And it's really happening here. And it's the beginning. And the beginning of spring is my favorite time of spring. Well, it's not it's one of the best times, right? Because it's all just started.
Yeah.
And there's that anticipation also that it's going to get woo.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's gonna get woo. Wonderful, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm inspired by another thing too. You asked me the wrong question, but in the
Ah.
sense of there's so many answers, but I did want to share this one, which is I'm really inspired by I know this could sound really strange, all the brilliance on the internet,
Yeah.
like all the people that we can listen to, all the access to, like Thomas Ubel or Hamid, and there are a number of really amazing thinkers out there who are really grappling with, the existential risks that we're in as a planet. And they're doing so from a place of enormous heart and intelligence and deep, deep learning. And yeah, I'm very inspired that there are humans like that.
Mm.
And that we can all, me in particular, but can just sit in my living room and be showered with this, all these different views that are taking things further and showing more and teaching us. Yeah.
Mm. Beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mhm. Yeah. Are you kind of involved in Of course, you work full time, I think, and you probably don't have a lot of time to sort of linger over podcasts, but
Part time, part time. I work part
yeah.
time. I do have
Okay.
time. It goes in phases for me, where I suddenly and this is guided by as well. I mean, something comes in, it has a relevance, and then my being gets activated, and then
Yeah.
some teacher will be very relevant for me, and I will receive the teachings, really work with it, write notes, grapple with it,
Uh-huh.
integrate it,
Oh,
experience
yeah.
the expansion, and then when I feel I've exhausted that particular subject, then
Mhm.
it kind of integrates, and I move on, and generally then I'll just continue my thread with Diamond Approach, reading the books again, or the Diamond Approach is the golden thread, the red thread that goes through it all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same for me, definitely.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry I made that assumption that you were working full time. I think you mentioned it in one of the broadcasts that you were a teacher, I
True.
think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Teacher. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's full time, part time. I'm working
Okay.
part time. It's like, up and down, a little bit more here, a little bit less there. So it's fluid. It's fluid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
But
Yeah.
I work every day,
Uh-huh.
Monday
Yeah.
to Friday, that is.
Right. Exactly. Even the weekend. Everybody is.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Good. Hmm.
beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, this has been even more than I've been really looking forward to meeting you and talking to you.
Mm,
So it's, and I don't know whether we're ending or what we're doing, but I just wanted to tell you that it's been delightful for me
yeah,
and to be seen and appreciated and also to share and to learn to be with you, just be in contact, just to let things develop and move and flow. Yeah, really nice.
yeah. 100% neutral, huh? It's been a delight. And I was very much looking forward to this myself. And at the beginning, we were thinking, okay, let's see what true nature manifests. And here we are. Huh? we,
Yeah.
we can now really look back and say, okay, yeah, wonderful. I think that's great. I think it was beautiful, bright, wonderful. I'm really full. I feel a sense of fulfillment from
Yeah.
conversation with you. It was really rich, and there was, I mean, I feel the essence of it, and there is a lot of brightness. That's my sense of it. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. Very bright. Very, yeah, like the liquid light, eh?
The liquid light. With bursts of laughter and joy, and weaving in the beauty and that's one thing that I really appreciate, to really bring this animation of alive, meaning
Um,
the vessel, and I mean, the word that comes is drama, but it's not drama as such. It's more like a way of like filling out one's consciousness and really bringing that sense of authenticity to expression, and allowing oneself to really come full forward and be responsive and bring out the juices. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. My teacher, my first private teacher, she used to say, "The juice is loose." You know that expression, right?
The juice is loose. I've never heard that, but I like it. I can relate. I definitely resonate. The juice is loose. The juice has been loose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Wonderful.
Well, uh-huh. Well,
Okay.
dear, wish you all the very best, and so thank you for both this encounter and your Pearl dialogues. May they live long and prosper. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. And thank you to all the listeners. Wonderful to have you with us. You're not watching this in real time, obviously, but yeah, you listen to the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.